Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're looking at a truly fascinating paradox. We're constantly told, right, that self awareness is the ultimate key to literally everything: better relationships, wild success, just a way happier life. So, what do? We journal, we devour psychology books, maybe we even hire a life coach. But what actually happens when this massive quest for self improvement totally backfires? Okay, let's dive into this because honestly, for a lot of people, the answer to that is a very painful yes. You might have completely mastered metacognition, that ability to think about how you think. But sometimes that supposed superpower kind of becomes a prison. That inner observer, the one that's really supposed to help you grow, it suddenly morphs into this incredibly harsh inner critic. You get so painfully aware of your own flaws that you're just frozen, literally barely able to move forward.
Which brings us to section 1, metacognition versus hypervigilance.
To really wrap our heads around this trap, we've got to debunk a massive myth right off the bat, and that is not all self-awareness is created equal. Psychology actually draws this really distinct line between healthy metacognition and toxic hypervigilance. See, while healthy awareness is a fantastic tool for growth, hypervigilance is, well, it's basically heavy psychological armor. It's a coping mechanism, deeply rooted as a trauma response. It comes from this profound need to survive in unstable environments by constantly, obsessively monitoring your own behavior and everyone else's moods just to stay safe. So it's entirely about survival, right? Not growth.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between these two mindsets. On the one hand, you've got healthy metacognition, which is this open-minded exploration. It's all about taking new perspectives, understanding your natural limitations, and building genuine emotional intelligence. But on the other hand, hypervigilance treats those exact same limitations as literal life or death threats. You aren't exploring your mind anymore. You are fiercely guarding it.
Let's move right into section 2, signs of hyper-awareness. So, how can you actually tell if you've crossed that line? Well, if you were sitting right across from a therapist, they wouldn't just be listening to your brilliant self-analysis. They'd be actively listening for the why driving it. And there are 3 telltale symptoms they look for to diagnose if your self-awareness has turned into toxic hyper-awareness. Those are analysis paralysis, emotional detachment, and relentless fixing. When these pop up, it means your self-awareness is definitely no longer a tool for self-acceptance. Instead, it's morphed into a state of constant paralyzing assessment. Let's look a bit closer at each of these traps.
The first big sign is analysis paralysis. Now, while healthy self-awareness naturally leads to clarity and decisive action, hypervigilant self-awareness, it just freezes you. You find yourself overanalyzing absolutely every single choice, every spoken word, every potential outcome. And the absolutely crucial point here is this: you are not actually making a decision anymore. You're trying to predict the future. And you end up just getting crushed under the sheer weight of endless, exhausting possibilities.
The second sign to look out for is emotional detachment. This is when you become so busy observing your feelings from a distance that you completely forget to, actually feel them. You might label your anxiety with clinical precision, saying something like, yes, a classic cortisol spike triggered by a perceived social threat. But you totally refuse to just sit with the raw, simple human feeling of being scared. It is exactly like being a scientist who knows every single chemical compound of a cake, but has never actually tasted its sweetness.
And the third sign is relentless fixing. This is where you stop trying to accept yourself, and instead you try to basically upgrade yourself like you're a piece of software. You stop seeing your limitations as just part of being a whole, complex human being. Instead, they become this massive to-do list of character flaws that must be eradicated in a relentless pursuit of a perfection that, frankly, simply does not exist. This mindset completely eradicates any chance for self-compassion.
Next up, section 3, the childhood origins. So, where does this exhausting internal surveillance state actually come from? To understand the heartbreaking root cause of all this, relentless self-analysis, we have to look back. Often, it's a brilliant but ultimately exhausting adaptation to childhood trauma or an unstable early environment. It basically all comes down to a deeply ingrained survival formula. If you grew up needing to constantly predict a parent's mood just to avoid conflict, or if the love and attention you got felt highly conditional, your brain learned a very powerful lesson. It learned, if I can just understand and manage myself perfectly, I can stay safe. That hyper-aware child survives, sure, but they grow into an adult who is still trying to manage their environment. Only now, the environment they're fiercely managing is their own mind. It's psychological armor, and let me tell you, it is incredibly heavy to wear.
Let's move to and see how this builds into section 4, finding your self-compassion. So how do you actually take off this heavy armor? How do you turn that harsh interrogator's spotlight shining in your mind into a warm, gentle lamp? Well, the goal, surprisingly, isn't to become less self-aware, it's to become more self-compassionate. The source material suggests this really practical 3-step framework for replacing that hypervigilance with genuine self-compassion. It involves getting into the body, embracing the concept of good enough, and shifting your awareness outward. Let's walk through these steps so you can start applying them right away.
Step 1 is stepping out of your head and getting into your body. When you feel that really intense urge to overanalyze an emotion, just pause. Seriously, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? Is it a tightness in your chest? Is it a sudden pit in your stomach? This is actually a core concept in somatic experiencing therapies. By doing this, you're connecting with the raw physical data of your feelings. You are intentionally bypassing that hyper-analytical mind that desperately wants to turn your feeling into a problem that needs solving. Step 2 is practicing what we call the radical act of good enough. Remember, perfectionism is the absolute engine of hypervigilant self-awareness. So you have to throw a wrench in those gears. Intentionally do something imperfectly today. I mean it. Send a casual email with a minor typo. Leave a single dish in the sink overnight. By doing this, you're actively teaching your nervous system that safety, love, and your inherent worth are absolutely not tied to perfection. You are enough right now, exactly in your beautifully unfinished state.
The final step is shifting your awareness from inward to outward. When you're with someone, try to simply be with them. Stop analyzing how you're presenting yourself. True emotional intelligence, the kind that builds deep, lasting connections, isn't just about understanding yourself. It uses all those profound analytical skills you have, but redirects them to create a space of genuine empathy and safety for others. And this brings us to one of the most powerful insights from our explainer today. The goal of self-awareness isn't to build a better mirror, it's to build a better window to the world. Your deep analytical mind is an incredible gift. It gives you insight and empathy that so many others simply do not have. But please remember this. You are a person to be experienced, not a broken problem to be solved. Healing isn't about thinking less, it's about thinking with much more kindness.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a pivotal question. Will you trade the exhausting need to be perfect for the peace of being present? Because embracing your beautifully unfinished state is where true freedom lies, a freedom that literally no amount of overanalysis could ever provide. I highly encourage you to carry this question with you and, perhaps explore practices like guided self-compassion